Hi, this is Orlando City Commissioner Robert Stuart. Very soon I'll be retiring from my position after 20 years of service to the citizens of Orlando, but before I retire, I wanted to leave a gift of history. I've had the wonderful opportunity to interact with so many people that have had such an impact on our city and how it's grown and how it's developed. Please join me on this audio journey as we meet these very interesting and influential people. Thank you for joining us today with Orlando History Makers. I'm your host, Orlando City Council member Robert Stuart, asking for just a few minutes of your time as we learn what makes our city and community so exciting and vibrant. It's my intent to bring some of the great stories of Orlando's history to life, to look at the impact of these events and people, and to create an interest in our very exciting history. Today we have with us one of Orlando's and Central Florida's real history makers, Charlie Gray and his wife Saundra. Charlie's been a fixture here in Central Florida for almost 80 years, where he served as city attorney for our city of Orlando, Orange County attorney, founding partner of Gray Robinson, one of Orlando's and Florida's premier law firms, and has his hands in just about every major accomplishment here in Central Florida for almost 70 years. We're also joined by his wife and life partner of more than 70 years, Saundra. So thank you, Charlie and Saundra, for joining us today. So before we begin, I just want you to take a moment and share how you came to Orlando and some of your earliest memories of coming to Orlando.
I was born and raised in Leesburg, Florida. I came to Orlando in the 5th grade, and I've lived here ever since. Saundra is a native of Orlando, and her family has been here for many, many years. Her father was very involved with the Orlando Sentinel. He was the business manager of the Sentinel. And my early memories of being in Orlando was after I graduated from the University of Florida. Saundra put me through law school. I'm not sure I could have made it without her urging me to stay in there, because it was one of those things where at the beginning of law school, they said, look to your left, look to your right, they won't be here. And it was very difficult. I barely passed the first semester, and she encouraged me to just spend 2 hours a day studying instead of 24 hours. And so when the test came out, it was a 2.6 or 8, I forgot now, but I passed. So she's responsible for me staying in law school, and whatever happened after that, she's responsible for. Well, not everything, all the good things.
Yeah. Now, earlier than that, you used to be a paper boy for the Sentinel and the Evening Star.
I was a paper boy.
And I'm just trying to get the picture of you rolling up papers and tossing them through the community like we used to see.
Well, before that, I sold papers. There was a truck that came by. I've forgotten the name of the truck driver, but he would take a bunch of us boys out to the air base to sell papers at the air base. And we'd make our money out there and selling papers, because that was a big deal. I remember out there, the one thing I remember was these 2 Army officers were coming along, and I walked over to them and I said, aren't you Preston Foster? Because they had, and the one officer looked at me and he says, Dana Andrews. I said, oh, okay. That impressed on me. I was wrong, but I knew it was an actor.
Now, for those who are listening, the Army Air Base became the Naval Training Center and became later on Baldwin Park. So that's
correct.
a couple of thousand acres that were there.
Yeah.
And for those who are in trivia, the Herndon Airport was the Orlando Army Air Corps long before people went to the McCoy Air Force Base and Orlando International Airport. So
Right.
that's
So it was later that I became a paperboy delivering papers in Orlando. I remember I would get on my bike and go down to the bakery on Orange Avenue,
Federal Bakery.
That's
a Federal Bakery, and I'd knock on there's an alley behind the Federal Bakery, and I would knock on the door, and they knew I was coming. I was kind of a regular every morning, and they would let me in, and they'd give me a couple donuts. So I would eat the donuts. I wanted to be sure I ate them before I got down to the Sentinel, which was a little further down on Orange Avenue, because I wouldn't get to eat them all if I got down there. And the other boys were
there'd be some competition.
so I would go on down, and then I'd roll my papers. Every boy rolled his papers so he could throw them. So I'd roll my papers and go and get on my bike and throw the papers around Orlando. I had a route that involved somewhere around Thornton Street, in that area.
Yeah.
But I would. That was something that was every morning.
Yeah. Now, for those who are listening, paper boys were a really big deal because you only got papers one of two ways. Either a paper boy brought it to you, or you went to a drugstore and bought the paper. You didn't get it any other way. Every now and then you could swing by the Sentinel and grab one actually out of the Sentinel. But I can remember growing up, that's how you made money. You would go and you actually had to sell subscriptions in the neighborhood, and you got a part of what you sold, and then you had to deliver. And then it was a 5 o'clock in the morning kind of. I'm going to take my bike out, and today we would consider that the most dangerous thing in the whole world. But back then it was like, of course everybody's going to do it.
Yeah.
What
is odd is that my wife, Saundra, her dad was the circulation manager of the Orlando Sentinel. I didn't know him at the time, but he was the guy that all the paper boys went down and they got their papers and that sort of thing. So we've got a relationship there. That
you were connected even before that.
Even then, yeah.
And for those who are listening, there's a lot of information about Charlie and Saundra on orlandomemory.info, and all these details and many other stories are there. But let me ask you this question: What from an early age, what did you learn that kind of you've kept with you since to today? I mean, that was 80 years ago almost. What have you learned in those early days and formation days that have impacted you?
Well, I worked as a paper boy. At Christmas time, I would go out and find areas I could find mistletoe and hollies that I would cut and take down on the corner of Central and Orange, and take a card table, and I would sell those down there. And the problem was that I was so indoctrinated into the Orlando Sentinel that I would occasionally just inadvertently sing out Orlando Sentinel because I was used to being out at the base yelling out
because you had to
Orlando Sentinel,
let's move forward a little bit. Share a little bit about how you got involved with the city of Orlando. Again, those who are listening, there's a whole timeline of all this, but tell us how you got involved with the city of Orlando. We're celebrating our 150th birthday in July. Tell me how you got involved in the Sentinel. I mean, in the Orlando Sentinel.
Well,
I'm sorry, our city of Orlando. I apologize.
my stepfather was a lawyer, and he was really retired at the time that I finished law school. I say I finished law school. Saundra finished me in law school. We moved to Orlando, and where was I?
Well, about law school, we were share some of the memories about how you got involved in the city of Orlando.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was practicing law, and my stepfather had retired, and so I was trying to make a living practicing law, and I needed to make more money than I could make than I was making. So I heard that the lawyer that was representing the city prosecuting city criminals was resigning, and it paid $200 a month. So I went down and talked to the city attorney. I'm trying to think of his name now, but he was the city attorney, and I asked him if I could take that job. I think Bobby Roth was leaving. It paid $200 a month back then. That was not big money, but it was worthwhile money. And he said, fine. So I got the job, and we had court once a week. I think it was on Friday. And Bobby said, you come down, and he said, I'll handle the first day. Usually there were 5-10 cases a day. And so you can watch me. So I said I would, and I went down and expecting him to handle the prosecution cases. The first one, and I'd be able to see what he did that day, and because I'd never tried a case by that time. But he didn't show up. So it was kind of a funny situation because the prosecutor, the officer said that he prosecuted this fellow because he was driving his car down Orange Avenue and weaving all over the road, hitting one curve and then another. Then he ran right into Lake Ivanhoe.
No, Lake Lucerne.
Lake Lucerne. Yeah. And he said the car went underwater. The guy swam out, and he said he described his face was flushed, his smelled of alcohol, his speech was slurred. He described this fella as an officer normally would, and I said, was he drunk? He said he was intoxicated to the extent that his normal faculties were impaired.
What a great line.
And so I just said, I rest my case. And the defense attorney turned it over to the defense attorney, and he stepped up and said, well, did you, and asked the officer, did you find the other passenger in the car. Well, the officer said there was no other passenger. He said, how do you know? Did you examine the car? Did you? Well, no. Well, you don't know that there was nobody else in the car. And the officer said, well, no, I guess I lost the case.
So your first criminal case was a DWI, I guess, back then, right? And you lost. And now the other side story, I don't want to get you off because I want to make sure we take time, is that the officer that testified was a guy named Randall James, who was a young officer at the time. And Randall later on becomes the bodyguard and becomes working for Mayor Frederick and Mayor Hood and Mayor Dyer in the mayor's office, helping to lead the city. But the story you tell online is that you overheard him telling this story at a function, and you went up to him and said, Randall, I know we're friends, but I was that attorney that you're telling the story about. Now I'm thinking, what a great, there are scores of friends that are that way with me. I knew them 50 years ago, and then they become friends all of a sudden. They go, oh yeah, we were here together. I'm thinking, same kind of story. All right, let's change a little bit. Saundra, let me ask you a couple of quick thoughts, if you don't mind. Being the spouse of a man like Charlie is very special. He's very special to our entire community and sports, very special to me. And I know that my wife, in the midst of the things I do, is more than just a casual observer. In many cases, she's my sounding board. She's my confidant. She's a leader in her own right. As you look at our city kind of through your eyes and through Charlie's eyes, share a little bit about your life here in Orlando.
I was born in Orlando because my family came here in 1931. My dad worked for a newspaper man out in Texas, Charles Marsh. And Mr. Marsh used to buy up failing newspapers, and he would send in a crew to get them on their feet again, and then he'd sell them. So my dad was part of that crew, but he never left Orlando. He fell in love with it. So did my family. I had 3 brothers and my mom, and I was born 8 years later. So they'd been in Orlando for a while I was born. But being married to Charlie, I've been near the center of the action for a long, long time. And I've never been shy about giving him my opinion. They weren't always the same as his, but we have had a lot of fun. And over the years, we've done a lot of things together, which we feel good about. Yeah. We feel good about the city and feel good about what he's accomplished. So, and what other?
Well, I can't speak specifically about all the things that y'all have done, except to know that when I look at my marriage, I will tell you candidly, I would like to be a lot like y'all's. You've done a lot of things together. I mean, you've gone around the world, for goodness sakes. I mean, but the most important part is that you guys are here more than 70 years later. And I would say, looking from the outside, just as much in love as you were before.
You're right. And
if it's like with me and my wife, we don't share the same opinion often. But that's kind of what makes my mom and dad used to say that after elections, they would find out who they voted for, and they would always vote for the opposite people because they didn't want to have one be too right and one be too wrong. So they would say, okay, somebody's going to win. One of us will be happy.
I'll tell you a little story. When I was at the University of Florida, I was chairman of homecoming, and I was trying to figure out who I'd like to have as our speaker for the homecoming banquet. And Saundra says, why don't you get that young senator from Massachusetts? I think he's going somewhere. I said, oh, no, he's too liberal for me. That John Kennedy is just too liberal for me. And she said, well, I really think he's going somewhere. And so she finally convinced me. So I called Senator Smathers and I said, would you invite Senator Kennedy to be our main speaker at our Blue Key banquet at the University of Florida? And he accepted. The problem was, although there were 500 people at the Blue Key banquet, women were not allowed, were not invited to the Blue Key banquet. At the University of Florida, I think women were, it had been 3 or 4 or 5 years since women started coming to the University of Florida. So Saundra was not at the Blue Key banquet to listen to Senator John Kennedy, who she was responsible for having invited.
And it was you that put him on the road to the presidency, and
I got him elected president.
Well, look, as we reflect on your leadership, and again, there is tons of things. I love spending time with you. You were involved in the East-West Expressway. You were involved in the creation of the Orlando Arena. You were involved in the creation of the Orange County Convention Center, and much, much more. When you look at all the projects you've been involved in, and we were sharing just a few minutes before we got on the air, what projects do you think kind of had this greatest impact on our community?
Well, I think that the University of Central Florida is really important. And our wastewater system, this is not a sexy deal, but that was one of the most important things I was involved in. And the reason the way I was involved was I was able to get the federal money available to Florida. Everybody had to solve their wastewater problem because EPA came down to all of them. But I was close to the governor, and I was able to get for Orange County for our program half the money allocated to the state of Florida for 3 years running. And Miami was trying to get it, Tampa was trying to get it, all the rest of Florida was trying to get it. But I got that money for our community for 3 years running, and it solved our wastewater problem.
Well, one of the challenges that we know is that when you look at an army runs on the backs of the cooks because you got to get food, you got to get supplies there. Cities run on the backs of the services they provide, and wastewater is like a really big one. And I speaking as I'm a Johnny come lately. I've only been around 71 years, so I want to tell you how much I appreciate you allowing me to flush my toilet. But I do want to say this, and I'm not trying to be too complimentary because I do love you and people know that I do. But there's only a few people that, when you look over the history of Orlando, that could have accomplished what you accomplished, and to me, it was because you had a special relationship with the city of Orlando. You had a special relationship with Orange County. You had a unique relationship with Tallahassee through several governors. And you use those to have an impact on our community. And that, I think, is it goes far-reaching, much farther reaching than just being able to flush your toilet. It really talks about the longevity of our community.
Yeah. One of the big problems we had that is not nearly as big a problem today, but it was back then, was the county and all the commissioners hated the city and the city commissioners, and I think they probably felt the same way about the county and the county commissioners. So when I was county attorney, I was the only county official that could deal with the city and work back and forth
Right.
with the city. I had a special relationship with the city and the city mayors and city council, and that helped keep the heat down a lot between the city and the county. But there was, for some reason, each were jealous of the other because the city was smaller and the county was bigger, and yet the county was less effective and the city was more effective, and there was just a jealousy there. There was it had been there, and I think it's a lot less now.
Yeah.
Much less.
Yeah. Well, I think what's neat about it is that, I've been on council now 20 years. And we've done some really neat partnership stuff in the last 20 years. And I want to tell you, the foundation of that partnership happened decades before, because there was a level of trust of people who were in lower level positions that knew that the city and the county ought to get along. And 20 years later, they're now in leadership. And all because of your example of accomplishing that. So it's a big deal. The venues that we have and the work that we've done in our city, a lot of that is on your shoulders. What other projects that you can think of that you can give me just a little glimpse of behind the curtain?
Let's see.
I'd like to inject that you brought Campus Crusade
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
That was a kind of a silent thing, but he was certainly involved. Got them here, and then the Wycliffe Bible translators, and the story
Followed him,
kind
right.
of weaves together.
Right. And now it used to be like on the other side of the world, and now it's like you just got to drive over there. I got involved when they came in town because I was involved with Bill Bright on a project we were doing in 1990, in 1992 and 93. And they had
Is that
just
before they came here?
No, they had just gotten here and just opened up their area. And
You want the story of how he
well,
came here?
no, he was here, and we were doing an evangelistic outreach with churches here in town. And in doing that, somebody said, "Well, you need to go see Bill Bright." And I'm going, "He's like a big deal. I'm not gonna." I mean, so here we rush in, a couple of, I say young executives, we're 40 or 45 at the time. We walk in to talk to Bill Bright, and had the most wonderful time. He was very supportive. Gave us some of his staff to be involved. Got to know Vanette. I mean, it was just a wonderful experience. And I think that again is a lasting impact of our community. People don't know about. Okay, so last question. When you look at the legacy, your legacy, what are some guiding words, guiding thoughts you have kind of for the next generation of leaders?
Well, I think if you see something that needs to be done, don't just stand by. Go get involved and get it done. This is one of the most wonderful places you could live in the world. And it's because of the people that are here, that have been here, and that are here now. I can't think of any other place in the world that I would rather be than here. We have people that have been so important to building this community, and we have to work as hard as we can to keep our community and to help our state not get into problems.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. So if you want to know more about Charlie and Saundra's story, you can read about it at orlandomemory.info and through the Orange County Library System's website and their oral history. There's their opportunity to preserve Orlando's history in oral history. I want to tell you how much I appreciate y'all. Thank you very much for doing this. It's a personal favor to me. I appreciate it. I'm so honored to spend time with you. And speaking on behalf of the entire community, let me express my gratitude to both of you. Our city would not be what it is today without your leadership, and I want people to know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to thank our listeners for taking a few minutes to spend time with us today, and that's it for now. Please look for discussions on Orlando History Makers on this podcast channel. I'm your host, Orlando City Commissioner Robert Stuart, and I appreciate your listening. Remember, let's value our past, learn from it, and make our future brighter than ever. Thank you.